That is Topanga Canyon. That is Pacific Coast Highway. That's the beach. And that's the direction we're going to go right now, down the canyon. And we're going to do a little bit of a review on that. Stay tuned. Why am I taking what clearly is a very heavy luxury electric SUV on a road like this? I mean, shouldn't I be taking this thing off-road or putting my family in it or several bags of dog food or something like that? Well, I mean, it's, you know, obviously it's for that type of thing, but no, not really. You see, and I'm going to prove this in the video, especially when I do the walk around and show you guys everything this car is about. This is more than just your average luxury SUV. This thing actually has a lot of sport baked into it. The new Acura ZDX, and this one's the A-Spec, so it's the performance big-wheeled monster version of it, is great for this type of driving. And oddly, it paints a much different picture than its brethren. Now, think about what the platform is. It's an Ultium platform. Essentially, this whole thing is a Cadillac Lyriq, right? Underneath. It's also very similar to the Chevy Blazer EV. And it's a cousin, although a more powerful badass cousin, to the Honda Prologue. So it has a lot of the bones, specifically battery, motors, switchgear, electronics, a lot of the suspension, not all, but a lot of the suspension components from the General Motors parts bin. This is built in Spring Hill. I mean, yes, it's essentially a General Motors product underneath. However, just like the Honda Prologue, Acura tuned the suspension and the overall feel of this vehicle, and it feels very different than the Blazer, which I would say the Blazer, the rear-wheel drive Blazer especially, but the Blazer in general really does have the most character amongst the GM crowd for electric vehicles when you're driving through a canyon. Good response, good adhesion, fun car to drive. This is different. I think in many ways this is actually somewhat superior, and they've managed to do it in a vehicle that has ridiculously large wheels and weighs as much as the Titanic. So a couple facts out of the way. Underneath this vehicle is a 102 kilowatt hour battery. Yes, it's shared with other vehicles from General Motors. It has a 190 kilowatt DC fast charge capability coming in right over here. And you have to hit that to pop it. And there we go. You know what you're seeing here? Yeah. That ain't no NACS setup. Now, it will be coming, but it's not here yet. I believe that Acura will be able to furnish you with an adapter so you can use NACS. Okay, let's start from one side and work our way over with the interior, because there's a lot going on. First of all, and this part I'm not very happy with, at your left knee, that's where you have your modes, for your drive modes. So it's way out of the way and you have to take your eyes off the road in order to use it, which sucks. Auto hold, lane departure, sensor. And this is supposed to let you go up and down. I played with it, but it doesn't really, I don't know. It's not very quick, and there's not a whole lot of lift. We'll get into that in a second. Okay, let's talk about door panel, because it's pretty. This is actually lit at night and different colors. Same with the other side, obviously, and in certain sections of the dash. So yeah, not only is it a nice little piece of trim, yep, lights up. Two-tone, this is very typical to Acura's design. They like using red leather. It feels pretty nice. You have stitching running down here. Nice metal-looking door pull. I'm not sure if that's real metal. And this I'm very happy about because it's cushioned. That's where I like to put my arm. Open the window and zoop, put the arm right there. That's needed Bang and Olufsen stereo system. Once again, something else we'll talk about in a second. That's where it says Type S. Seating. Yes, there is. I find the seats very comfortable, very similar to what Cadillac has, but these headrests, they're kind of a pain. Now, it does say Type S right here. I don't know if you could see that. I actually lowered mine so my neck and my head would kind of not be pushed forward. This doesn't go back, it just goes up and down, and it makes it for an uncomfortable place for me to sit unless it's here. Let's get started with this, which is an 11-inch display. Obviously very similar to the ones that are in other products with the Ultium platform. And then you have over here an 11.3-inch touchscreen infotainment setup. We'll get to that in just a sec, but let's start over here because we were just talking about drive modes. Okay, so once again, really don't like the location of any of these. So I'll go to mode and clicking that, and there we are. We're going to start in sport as opposed to individual. Okay, so once you're in sport mode, you drop 15 millimeters. I think that's just over half an inch, and that gives you much better, lower center of gravity, better for handling. It actually works. I do feel a difference between that and normal. Now, if you go up to, there's sport, and here's snow. That is precisely the opposite, because what that does is that lifts you up from your standard setting 25 millimeters. And that setting will be good for clearing snow and obstacles. It also changes the algorithm. Obviously, both do. So you're not going to have the same performance in snow that you would with sport. In snow, acceleration is totally different. Sluggish, takes more effort, makes sense because you don't want to bang all that 500 horsepower in there and have it launch when you're in snow and then get your wheels stuck. Bad idea. Okay, so very different types of setups there. And by the way, there's supposed to be a slightly different electric note for being in sport mode. So I'm gonna go, okay, right now I'm in normal, and I'm going back to sport. Do you hear that? That is a different noise than it makes in the other settings. There's a whirling noise that you would hear at lower speeds with the standard setting. Snow setting sounds about the same as well, but there's also an individual setting where you can actually program the car to behave the way you want it to. So I suppose you could probably change some of the noises and whatnot. There's a whole bunch of other things you can change, including the interior lighting, which, by the way, has like over a dozen different lighting colors. So it's, yeah. Now let's talk about the steering wheel, because it's magic. Not just because it has Type S there and some very nice red stitching and a slightly fat, I said fat bottom, I meant flat bottom, but actually that works because, well, for people like me who are junkie, this actually helps us clear the steering wheel. Okay, let's talk about the steering wheel itself. This is an interesting indication of what the steering wheel is all about. For those of you who are familiar with Super Cruise from General Motors, which is a really good cruise control system that essentially goes to autonomous driving. I would say partial autonomy, but it's still pretty damn autonomous. Okay, anyway, so the Super Cruise system, it'll light up and tell you whether or not you're in a spot where Super Cruise can actually be used, which is highways, right? Well, Honda has their own version of it, and it's called Hands-Free Cruise. It's Super Cruise, okay? And all the switches are the same. In fact, this is basically a GM steering wheel, and you're able to trigger the Super Cruise by hitting this, and it says hands-free cruise unavailable, no road, blah, 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 blah. Okay. I've already tried it. I only got it to engage a couple times because the area that I'm located in just doesn't have the highways needed. If I hopped onto the 101 or the 405 or the 110 freeway, all the ones that are near where I live, no problem. This thing would engage most likely, and you can use it in traffic. You can use it when towing. And this vehicle, by the way, can tow up to 3,500 pounds. By the way, I'm taking these corners at pretty good speeds, and I gotta be honest with you, this thing is adhering beautifully. The suspension setup in this makes what is a very heavy car feel a lot lighter on its toes. I jumped behind a BMW, is that an X3, and he was hauling, and I had no problem reeling him in. No problem at all. A couple things you guys should know. There is a heads-up display on this model, and honestly, it's not my favorite HUD out there. I was kind of hoping for something a little bit more, I don't know, larger? No, the size is actually okay. Maybe the clarity, if it could be a little bit better. I know my eyes are getting old, but I also am looking at this, and there's other little things here that indicate different traction, people around you, obviously your speed and what this posted speed is, and blah, blah, blah. And it's just not that crystal clear. Okay, let's have a looky here. Now, like all crossovers, it's all about utility, which means cargo space. Now, this does have a low roof. It's part of the design, just like all the other vehicles that share this platform. Over here is where you can, there we go, and down it goes, swam! If you have a kid there, yeah, you're gonna wake them up. Let's put it on the other side too. Bam! Bam! Love it. Up to around 63 cubic feet of cargo space with the seats down. Hello, Mr. B. Hi. Hi, you want to get out? You want to get out of the Acura? Huh? Please? Buzz off. I said buzz off. Go on. Go on. You just... Now he's mad. Cargo area down here. Now I want to show you. This comes with it. What I really like is the fact that you can go and use this in this box. There we are. So you can go 110 or 220, which is pretty cool because not everybody wants to put a box or can put a box in their house, right? All right, let's move this out of the way and lift this up here. There it goes. There's a little extra storage. Now, if you were to get the Honda version of this vehicle, you'd have a fairly large area down here for storage. I think this might be battery and motor issues in terms of overall space down here, but there's still some extra cargo here too. I do recommend this road though. Even with the construction, it's really entertaining. Interesting thing, I'm down to 265 miles. There's the line for the other cars. I'm down to 265 miles, according to this car. And when I started the road, which was up to this point, it's only been like 10 miles. I was at around 300 miles. No, take that back. When I left home, I was at 300 miles. I'm now at 265 miles. When I got to the road, I think I was at 280 miles. So, yeah, even though I went only 10 miles, I lost 15 miles, but I'm getting some of it back heading downhill. I like the gear lever in this. I'm gonna turn you over here. Look at this. This little guy right here. Pop it into drive. Very similar to what Mercedes uses. It's definitely what General Motors is using. Not only their electric vehicles, but almost all their vehicles now. I mean, I would prefer a gear lever here for a sporty feel, but it's an electric, so it's no big deal. So, what does this mean? This means that this component is shared with a lot of other vehicles, and at the end of the day, that should bring the prices down because it's such a widely produced component. Same goes for that, and 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 everything in here. It's pretty much all General Motors. But as I said, it has a feel of its own. Strange. I think it's a mixture of the suspension setup, which is beautiful. I love the suspension. It's a little slow to lift and lower, to be honest with you, but it's not like I'm going to be doing that very often. I'd probably leave this thing in sport mode almost all the time because I like the sound it makes and I like the feeling of being really low to the ground in something that I'm going to be throwing around a canyon. Especially something that weighs, I mean, let's face it, this thing is 6,000 pounds. The last sporty car I was driving around was a Lotus that weighed, well, half of that basically. So, very heavy, sporty electric vehicle. And even though it's probably getting pushed back a bit in terms of mandates and all that other stuff, which I'm not going to go into the politics of it, but that means that this vehicle or something like it is coming your way soon. Obviously, this one at over $76,000, that's fully loaded with all the goodies, and that's after all the fees. That may be a bit pricey. It's way too pricey for me. So what about its less expensive little brother? Same platform basically, just 85 kilowatt hour battery as opposed to this 102 kilowatt hour battery. That Honda, which I've driven a lot, is really good, but it's also really mellow. I said metal. It's not metal. No, it's mellow by comparison. This vehicle is actually a little bit more metal. It's a little bit more raucous. It's a little bit more rock and roll. And as I said before, goth. So for those of you who are into the Sisters of Mercy, I apologize for comparing this to your favorite group, but there is something about it that definitely has an edge. And once again, I'm having a really hard time just putting it into a couple words because it's many little things. But at the end of the day, I challenge you, sit in this, forget the fact that it's General Motors components, just forget that. Sit in it, drive it, then hop into the comparable Tesla or a comparable BMW even, and some of the other vehicles that are out there. And I'm willing to bet that you'll look at this and go, okay, this is a contender. It may not be as fast or as range capable as some of the competitors out there, but it is competitive. And I think that in itself is huge. Another thing is that even though I'm bouncing around on some ruts and some rocks here, the cabin is well isolated. I don't know if I brought that up earlier, but sound deadening is quite good. Yet you still can hear the road, and those massive steamroller tires and wheels are definitely generating some noise and vibration in the earth. Anything that's 22-inch wheels, for crying out loud, serious vibration. Why am I so against giant wheels in general? Think about it this way. It's rolling mass, and believe me, a guy like me knows about mass, right? So you have all that extra metal stuck in there. Yes, it looks cool. Yes, it looks like a Hot Wheels car or a concept car, which is why everybody's doing it on every vehicle out there. However, that's to the detriment of many vehicles because it's all that extra mass that you're trying to turn, which takes away from performance, it takes away from your economy, it takes away from a bunch of stuff. If this car were truly an economy car, it would have much smaller, lighter wheels and probably low rolling resistance tires, let's be honest. That's not the case here. This car, as tested, comes out to $76,450. That's with destination. And I suppose if you were to try to add more to it, you could probably creep it up close to 80. That's a lot of money for any vehicle, but especially an Acura, currently their most expensive vehicle. And to be frank with you, not a lot of these are jumping off dealership lots, at least not yet.